Go.
Okay. So I want to welcome our new members. We have Daryl and we have Amy and we have Faith. So welcome to all three of you. We're really glad that you've wanted to join the council. So we'll talk about some of our subcommittees and what we do during tonight's meeting. And if you're interested in joining any of the subcommittees, I think Daryl and Amy, you've wanted to join the public outreach committee. So we'll talk about what that covers. And Faith, feel free to join any subcommittees as we go forward. So with that, why don't we just go around the room and introduce ourselves, and so also that Linda can capture who's on tonight's meeting. So Andrea, I see you up in the upper left-hand corner for me. So
hi everyone, Andrea Worthington.
Okay, Amy. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amy Hawansky. Welcome to new members.
Thank you.
Chris, why don't you go?
Hello, this is Chris. I'm currently heading up the Tree Plan Master Committee.
And Paul?
Yes, I'm here via voice on telephone. I guess that's to work. Paul Sebesta, Tree Planning Committee.
Okay. And Amanda? Is Amanda? Did we lose Amanda?
Now, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Oh, there's,
Yep.
I
Yep.
was on mute. Okay, so Amanda Matuzik, part of the Public Outreach Committee.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, all the new members.
And Jonathan just joined fairly recently also. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Jonathan Marr. You can call me John. I'm also on public outreach.
Okay. And so then, like I said, we have Daryl and Amy and Faith. So with that, why don't we get started? The first thing is the approval of the meeting minutes. And Laura, you sent them out to everybody, right? Including the new members. So everybody has them? Okay. So does anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes from the February meeting?
I have a couple of corrections, just
Okay.
typos.
Okay, go ahead, Amy.
Page 2, line 37, in the middle of the sentence. Mr. Zimmerman suggested the council define their goals. It's just a typo for the word their.
Yeah.
Same page down at the bottom, line 72. This is very, very, very small technicality. Usually when we write the common name of a plant, we use small letters. So it says 592 boxwood, so that would just be a small b.
Okay.
Same page at the bottom, line 75. It will take a while to clean out the blocks and find ways to use them. And I believe we're talking about the building blocks, the stones that used to be used as part of the canal, right, Laura? I'm wondering, for the sake of anyone reading the minutes in the future, that maybe we say something like, it will take a while to clean out the former canal building blocks, just so that people know what those blocks are.
Okay, good point. Good.
Okay. Then page 3, line 82, a typo. She noted that while it's nice to see, that's a apostrophe S, it is.
Mhm.
Line 89, she noted it would be wonderful if a gardener or club to pick up maintenance. I think we're missing a word or two in there structurally.
Maybe we could just say would pick up maintenance. It would be wonderful if a gardener or club would pick up maintenance of the space.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Line 100. This is for Chris to decide himself, but I believe it's attributed to him on line 100 that he believes it's obvious the land was logged and used for agriculture in the past. I'm not sure if that's what he meant to say, that it was obvious that it was used for agriculture. I'm not sure that that is accurate. But that's up to you, Chris.
What's the context of the
No.
statement, please?
You were saying Mr. Zimmerman felt comfortable stating that the area on Shannon Boulevard, you know, where we went to look at the trees for the subdivision, that area of land being donated to the town was old growth forest. And also, I believe it's attributed to you saying it's obvious the land was logged and used for agriculture in the past. And I'm not sure that you wanted to say that was obvious, especially the agriculture part, because it being all wooded, it's not necessarily obvious that it was used for agriculture.
I think I might have been, and I can't remember, but I think that the context was within the footprint of the home or near the home, right? So the existing structure, that maybe that area had been in agriculture, but maybe I was saying that it does not appear to have been logged or have been in agriculture, like the areas that are being donated to the town, given the size of the trees. So.
Yeah, that was my concern, that it wasn't exactly what you had meant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that, yeah. So that,
So we
that
can
given
go
the older.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it. The intent is that I think the areas that's being donated to the town, given the size of the trees, that, you know, it appears that it might have been quite a while since there was agriculture or any evidence of logging. So I think it's the actual inverse of that. Yeah. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then same page,
Amy,
3.
just hang
Yes,
on.
ma'am,
So,
sorry.
Laura, you and Linda will make that, reword that.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is we'll make a note to structure that based on this conversation, and we can go back and listen to it, and then we'll make sure that if not verbatim captures what we discussed here.
Okay.
Another little technicality on line 103, Ms. Robertson stated that some additional trees may need to be removed to build the lawn. I think a better word would be install. We usually don't build the lawn, we install it.
Mhm.
Line 105, Ms. Robertson noted that this subdivision is being sold to one family. Again, this is only for people who want to come back and read the notes. I believe that we all understood that it wasn't just one person, one family, like mother, father, kids, but it was multiple members of the same family. So one generational family. So maybe if we said something like is being sold to multiple members of one family, would that be more accurate?
Okay.
And in the line right below that, 106, the council is dealing with the developer, but should also try and contact the initial owners of the land. And I wonder if what we really mean is the primary owners. I don't know if initial to me means like the people who bought it in 1600s. Or,
Way back.
yeah.
Long gone.
And that is all for me.
Okay.
And thank you, Linda, for always doing such an extensive write-up. You really capture everything that's been going on. It's great.
Yes, she does.
Yes, bravo.
Does anybody have any other comments on the meeting minutes?
No.
Okay, then does somebody want to make a motion to approve them?
I will make the motion to approve, or Amy
Okay,
can.
Andrea, and anybody second it?
I'll second for her.
Amy will second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, great. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Privilege of the floor. Laura, do we have?
No, I didn't receive any comments or requests for the meeting tonight.
Okay. So then let's move on to new business and action items.
I have a new business item.
Okay.
Just yesterday, I found out about at the last minute and then attended a virtual program about tree equity. And there's a lot of discussion these days about equity in all different aspects, different ways that our life proceeds. And I never thought about this as tree equity. the program was really great. It was through a thing that they're doing in Rochester through the state urban forestry department. They have received, and I'm not clear on all the exact specifics. I think it was a federal grant that they received with thousands and thousands of dollars to improve tree equity. What does that mean? They spent a long time and used a lot of, Steve and Chris would appreciate this. They used a lot of computer modeling to figure out, using those same sorts of things that you guys did to determine how much tree canopy is in this neighborhood and how much tree canopy is in that neighborhood. And they compared it and they came up with a mathematical goal of the number of trees that should be in each neighborhood. And then they compared it to the actual number of, or estimated number of trees in each neighborhood. And whatever that difference was is said to be an equity gap. And they found through this research, legitimately, they suspected and then discovered that it was true, that a lot of lower income neighborhoods didn't have as many trees as higher income neighborhoods. And so how does that affect your whole life? Well, obviously it would maybe raise your air conditioning bills because your house wouldn't be as shaded. And so now you, as a lower income family, have to pay more money for air conditioning for utility costs because your house is not shaded. They also found specifically that there was a higher incidence rate of people with asthma and breathing issues in these neighborhoods. And they attributed that to lack of trees, with the trees being able to pull pollutants out of the air. Many more things were explained to us. I thought those were two of the items that were easy to understand and were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So with their computer modeling, it's really this great, an amazing program. You can go into the program and say, if I added 2 trees to this neighborhood and then I'm going to punch in 5 trees over here, does that make it equal? How many trees do I have to put into this neighborhood to attempt to be equal? And you can use that as part of your town's master planning, right? Oh, we need 10 more trees in the Smith residence area and 20 more trees over, MacArthur Park area. I thought it was really fascinating, and it was all being done on grant. Now, as part of that, they are extending that computer modeling to hundreds of major cities across the United States. So any city is going to, as of April 1st, that's their goal, any city is going to be able to use this computer programming modeling to do the same thing for their own city. Now, I'm unclear about the exact way that happens. I have to go back and go on to some of the links that they suggested. This was only a 1-hour presentation, and they were only able to touch on, kind of how they got their funding and what their goal was and how they did this program. They didn't go over how exactly to use every bit of the computer program. But I thought it might be really cool for us to explore that, because it might easily tie into the work that the computer committee has already done, right? We could use maybe that same info and determine what would be equitable. It also helps us in tree planting committee. It helps us determine, hey, which community should we be planting in first?
Do you have a contact information?
So they said that at the end of that presentation, we had to give our emails, and then they were going to send us, all the information about how to use the program and how to be part of that. So once I receive that, then I can pass it on.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think, this is Chris. I mean, that sounds super exciting. I know a little bit about it, but definitely eager to learn more. And I think this would be an item that we would want to include within the master plan.
Right.
So I think even if we're not able to run the computer model due to data limitations, we could still establish a goal potentially that addresses equity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a possibility. I do wonder about our ability, because we don't have a comprehensive tree inventory, that might be a limiting factor, because we don't know where trees are right now. But maybe they have some other data source that we're not aware of, which would be super exciting. So if you could just send the link along, and we'll figure out how to engage with the broader committee on this issue as we discuss the broader goals for the street tree master plan.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Great.
Yeah,
And I
that's
believe
great.
also, Carol, I believe they also said that I think they recorded the program. So if we wanted to, we could rewatch it because it was a free workshop. I didn't have to pay to attend it.
Okay, so if you could get that information, that would be great, Amy, because
Okay.
yeah, I think some of us would be very interested in
Yeah.
watching it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business? Otherwise, we do have a lot of discussion items on some developments. Can we move on to that? Okay.
Sure.
Laura, do you want to go over the first one, the 2538 River Road, Kelk's Farm?
Yeah, so this one you guys have done at least one site visit, potentially two. And I don't think that it's a whole lot different than what we've seen. Sorry, I'll just pull it up quickly.
And for the new members, Laura, can you just explain, where it is?
Yes. So this is like right across from Blatnick Park. There used to be kind of like it was historic home, but I couldn't get it saved. It was apparently in very, very terrible condition that just got taken down. It's like right in between the two parking lots of Blatnick Park. And there's like usually a lot of lupins and everything that bloom in it in the summer because the lady that lived there for a long time was a flower farmer. So I'm constantly trying to save the lupins. This is maybe one of the first times that we've actually seen this is a tree cutting plan to make sure that it's on par and reflects what we talked about. And then the other thing that I put in the packet, is the sorry, let me rotate it I put in the highlight of the area that is not being cleared and is being preserved and reserved by the town as open space. So there's those two drawings. I just wanted you guys to take a look at them, make sure that you didn't see anything that was alarming or weird or anything you wanted to double check on that before they get out there and start clearing.
And Laura, we're still planning on doing the pollinator pathway.
Yeah, I mentioned that to the planning board and to the developer, and he said, yeah, he's willing to work with us on that. He's willing to try and move as many of the lupins over to wherever we can get them and want them planted and stuff. Yeah, that's still a go.
Yeah. I had a couple of just questions and comments, Laura. I think I did before was able to review just the site plan. It looked like, which was helpful, that the total clearing was 5 acres. Is that correct?
Yeah, is that on here? Did he say that?
Yeah.
It's pretty big
So if you look at
parcel.
So if you look at the clearing at the bottom where it says, clearing limit, and then within the legend, it indicates that the total clearing is 5 acres of forest.
Okay.
So just trying to get a better sense of the scope of the clearing of the project. Because it looked like it was like a big area as opposed to, you know what I mean? It was like a one big patch as opposed to, smaller patches like we've seen in the past. And then additionally, it looked like the clearing limits bisected the stream corridor, and then in places the actual Army Corps of Engineer wetlands. And so I'm just wondering what their plan is, especially that stream corridor. It says it is an active stream, and so is that can they clear across the stream?
I will double check with engineering on that, but I don't think that the clearing limits well, are you talking about maybe here? I don't see the clearing limits impacting. Maybe up here. Where are they impacting?
Is the stream like in the In the middle there?
This is
Yeah,
the,
I,
yeah, this is the stream here.
That's a stream. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I
Guys,
figured.
when the people that are joining by phone mute their phones, because sometimes like you have to do that on your phone. I can't. If I mute you, it's very hard for you to unmute. You have to press *6. But if you're on the phone, can you mute yourself with your own phone button? Thank you.
Yeah, we're getting some background noise. Thanks, Laura.
So, and I don't really understand the full of this, but yeah, he's like they're putting a box culvert in or something in and around this stream, so they're not touching the banks and they're not doing anything to disturb it, but it's not like a wetland, so it doesn't have. I don't really know. I will double check on that for you.
yeah, I guess it's, yeah, I couldn't, maybe I might be misinterpreting the map. When I looked at it quickly, it
No,
appeared that the
this is
clear,
the stream right here. Yeah, right here. It crosses right through the clearing.
yeah,
limit.
so then if that's a navigable water source, would that be somehow covered by Army Corps of Engineers?
Hmm.
Yeah, and
So I don't know.
I definitely have asked that question before, and there's an answer, and it was no, but I can't remember why. So, and I'll have to go and get that for you, and I can and get that to you guys. But I think it's because they're not disturbing the channel or something.
Right, but they're clearing all the trees across the stream.
But yeah, so I'll look into that. So
Yeah.
clearing around the stream.
And wasn't there also, please correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there going to be this little pull-off area for the beginning of that kind of pathway? And that's where we were going to put some
Yes.
pollinators, and where is that? Okay, it's kind of up. All right,
Yeah, it's right here.
thank you.
So we're hoping like to scoop up some of the lupin that's down here where the houses are going to be and put it up over here.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, quick question, maybe Amy has some insight on this, but at least the lupin species that I'm familiar with, so wild blue lupin that's found in the pine bush, I think it's very difficult to transplant due to its extremely deep taproot, but these other
That's true.
ornamental varieties might, so I guess based on just what I know and then one personal experience, if you sever the taproot and the taproot can go down 3 feet, then it'll kill the plant. So just FYI.
You
Okay.
are correct in saying that they are difficult to transplant. You are correct. So perhaps part of the mitigation, we had talked previously about that around that parking lot area along either side of the pathway to kind of have it be a little pollinator walk. So maybe we want to detail that a bit more specifically in the words, that it's not just digging up what's in the fields and putting it over there, but it's supplementing that with purchased plants and kind of and not having it just be a garbage drop site. We'll throw some plants there, but have thought put into it and work with us on that.
I thought we were going to kind of be able to lead that, weren't we, Laura, as to how we wanted the pollinator pathway to be?
Yeah,
I
we
thought
can.
so as well.
And
Okay.
he said that he's willing to work with us on it whenever we're ready.
And to Chris's point, it would be nice if we could get the pine bush type of lupin. I don't know if we have the correct soil, which is a very sandy soil in the pine bush, but it would be great if we could have some of that type of lupin, if we think it would survive.
Yeah, has anybody ever walked that site? Do we know if it doesn't look like wild blue lupin to me? It looks more ornamental, but I don't know if anybody's ever actually
Down by the river, you mean?
no, it's across from Blatnick Park.
Oh, of course.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it before. And there's some gorgeous liatris in there, like blazing star.
Yeah, there is. Yes, there is.
This is just from my car, but that's why I assumed that it was the ornamental variety of lupin. And then just FYI too, that, like you said, the soils would be a factor. But then too, I think this is very unlikely, but if it would become occupied, then that might be an issue because it'd be occupied by endangered species.
Yeah, for sure.
Create, which was exciting, but at the same time, create potential management limitations.
Yeah.
I thought there was a group of like Girl Scouts or something that were planting lupin in the park that you're talking about. I mean, I remember we were there for an
They were
arbor day.
They were planting milkweed, Andrea.
Beg your pardon?
They were planting milkweed for the monarch butterfly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
not lupin. Okay.
But I know, that you need the Karner blue butterfly needs little spots to travel to. And I know like Parkview Cemetery and Vale have little patches that they have some lupin in, and then over in the pine bush. And it would be nice but I don't know if we have the right soil, that we could continue these little patches if we had the right soil of the pine bush type lupin.
So I have 2 comments to tie into that, Carol. It may be possible for us to ask someone from the Pine Bush to come and consult with us on this so that we could make an effort that ties in with them. And then also Cobleskill College is starting a relatively new program where they are producing a lot of native pollinator plants, really, really cool ones. And they're thinking about kind of selling them in pods or groups, 3 of these and 5 of those, and together in a mixed bundle so that you can install all in one area. So we may also be able to work with them. I'm on the board at the Landis Arboretum, and we have already started a relationship with Cobleskill to take advantage of some of the things that their students are growing as part of the student programs. So perhaps we as the town could work with Cobleskill College to provide for us little plugs of all of these native pollinator plants. And then we could have, a volunteer day where we're planting them, or the developer could be planting them.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, and I'd be, willing to look at, do a site visit and look at the soils as well. And, Laura has some expertise there too, as a past Karner blue butterfly monitor. And so I think that's something that we could look at, and then the actual, even the site plan might indicate what type of soils are appropriate. I think it's Oakley soils, or Oakley sandy soils, or silty, are the primary soil. So my guess is that it's probably not appropriate, but I think it's super exciting to hear about all these other possibilities in regards to native plants that would support pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda, for your records, I'm also willing to work on that project as well.
And I'll make an initial contact with the Pine Bush. I used to know the person who was heading up the board there, so she could get me in touch with some current people.
Great, Carol.
Yeah, Carol. I mean, if you want, I could, if we need to, my office, when we were going into the office, is in the Pine Bush, and then what I was doing previously was restoring Karner blue butterfly habitat. So I probably can dial it in, and I planted like 100 acres of Karner blue butterfly habitat up in the Saratoga Sand Plains. So
Okay.
I could probably take care. Yeah, I think I got probably the
Good.
experience to figure it out for us.
I'm turning it over to you.
Yeah.
Sounds
You're in
good.
charge now.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So Laura, is there anything else you need from us on the Kelts Farm?
No, so I'll bring those to, there's a couple comments and they're important there, directly to the planning board on the next meeting, because they're discussing it and they specifically referred this to you for comments for the next board. I'm just checking that the clearing around the stream, how does that work? And if it's okay, and detailed specifications for transplanting the lupin, and then just checking to see what kind it is and soil suitability, and start working on the pollinator pathway plan with Joel and Chris or whoever. When you guys make contacts, just forward them on to me, and then we'll get it all together. So that when he gets his approvals, we'll be ready, to kind of go so that we can get out there and be protecting the plants and anything that we need to be protected out there.
And
Yeah.
Laura,
Is it-
what is the status of their required tree plantings for the front of people's houses?
So it's 2 per lot or every 60 feet, whichever is greater. And because it's an average density development, I'm sure that 2 per lot is probably greater than 60 feet apart. So
So
yeah,
do
that's
they have,
so let's do we'll make sure he has got a tree planting plan for the street
Yeah.
trees in the division.
Thank you. So we want to see the numbers, the types, of course, obviously following all of our rules, making sure he's got diversity and so we know what size they are, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're
a great,
following our tree installation techniques and methods.
that's a great comment. I'll send that. I wonder if he'll be able to, I'll see if I can actually get that done for the next meeting too, so that we're looking at both things at the same time would be helpful.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where we're at in the process on this and if it's even within our purview, but, I just wonder, would it be, I guess if we find out more information, could we be recommending that the riparian zone, trees along the riparian zone of that stream, if it is indeed a perennial stream, that those trees be, maintained, depending. So ideally we're not daylighting this stream that potentially supports, fish, frogs, all kinds of other wildlife.
Oops.
Good point.
The road, so this is the issue. The road this is where they're upside down, and I will definitely clarify this for you guys, but where the clearing is over the stream is where the road is going.
Okay.
And
So it's maybe a fairly limited, and I might be misinterpreting the map.
So
So
there'll be a culvert underneath the road?
yeah, I mean, this isn't like the full engineered plan set. This is not, I have an engineered set, but I don't have it up. I can actually pull it up. But yeah, that looks like an outfall to me here and here.
So the footprint of the clearing area is relatively small then,
Well, yeah, because the road is like what? So it's probably about 60 feet, a little bit more than that, because the culvert's coming out on either side.
Okay.
There may also, to tie in with what Chris is saying, there may be an opportunity for us to require at least maintenance, but perhaps also addition of some wet soil tolerant trees like serviceberry, Laura, your favorites, in and among, in that wet area. That could be an area where the developer is adding stuff.
Yeah. I will, I mean, if you guys are really, I have the engineered plans here. I have them right here. Sorry, I don't know what my child is doing.
Or maybe winter berries for berries for birds in the winter. That tolerates wet sites.
Okay, here they are. And I can also specifically request the TDE to look at that, because they just started the actual full engineered plans. These are fairly new. So
I think that would be helpful, Laura. They would probably know more than we would about.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're piping it with a culvert from one stormwater management area wetland to the next.
Oh, yeah, that's a long distance.
So they're basically putting the stream underground.
Yeah, because the road goes there.
Okay. Oh, but I guess if because of infrastructure, then I guess I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll take another look, and Is
Okay.
this an area that we could do I guess I missed the initial site visit, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do another one. We did do one kind of
Yeah, I went with you, didn't I?
there. I think we've done actually a couple.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Maybe this site, for whatever reason, I think maybe because it's across from Blatnick Park or whatever, has a lot of ticks. And I know that a couple people, when they were doing the site visit, had but
Oh.
we looked specifically where they were citing the multi-use trail here because there was the tree, like, just to see if we could preserve this boundary along this line has some pretty large oaks, which are gorgeous. So we wanted to make sure that the bike path was sited so it doesn't impact any of the large oak trees.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that's written up as part of the requirement, Laura?
Yeah. I can make sure it's in there. We flagged it. The flags are kind of old now. So, all right. So if you want, I'll email you guys the full engineered plans. And then do you want me to schedule another site walk?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I think that would be good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm confused. I haven't been to this site. I'd like to go.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll schedule that.
It's so much easier, when we've actually been there, and it also sticks in your head more, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's easier to talk about later too.
Yeah, maybe I'm confusing you guys with the planning board. I will email you the full engineered site plans and schedule a site walk.
Okay.
Laura, I have a quick question. Going back to the lupine transplanting, is that going to be our responsibility to physically go in and dig these up and transplant them, or is that going to be the developer's responsibility to do that?
Well, the developer has said that that he is willing to kind of scoop up the topsoil and with a heavy equipment thing and then kind of lay it down as gently as he can where we want to put to put them. So I think it's more like kind of scoops of topsoil.
I don't know if that's going to be effective.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know either. And this is just what he has said because he scraped it up and moved it around a bit when he was demolishing the home. And he said that when he scooped it up and moved it around with the loader, the piles of soil that he moved the next spring just sprouted full of lupin. So,
Seeds, maybe seeds.
Right. Andrea could be correct on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's likely transplant of dropped seeds rather than, especially if it has a deep taproot system, it's not going to survive that kind of transport.
yeah, I
Mhm.
wish I had paid closer attention because I did see them and I am a wild blue lupin expert, but I was really not looking at that specific and I don't remember. But
Well, maybe we should have that clarified or somehow figured out, just so that doesn't get kind of lost in the shuffle.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a
the
lot.
reason I don't think that it was is because to me, in my memory, there's multiple different color variations of the lupin, which obviously that's not impossible in the wild blue, but it's very rare.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think our ultimate goal is around that parking area, down that pathway, is to have that be a pollinator area. So whether we, plant with plugs or transplant things or have the developer install it, our ultimate goal is to make sure the wording says that gets planted as part of this project, and
Yeah.
we have input in it.
Yeah, and even if it's not the pine bush lupin, it's kind of saving the last little remnant of the Celt farm, lupin farm in this pollinator pathway. So it would be nice if we could save as much as we could.
Yeah,
I
little
think it's-
historical thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I noticed when I was out there's large plants, but there's definitely little babies that are being seeded, like very little guys, which would be easier to transplant, and would be doable for us rather than digging the giant ones if we were going to help.
Okay, Shall, did somebody else have a
This is
comment?
Chris. I was just going to say I have to drop off the call now. Apologize for that. And Carol, if you could just provide an update on the conversation that we had centered on the street tree master plan and
Sure.
our next steps. I
Yep.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Bye, all.
Meeting.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris.
Take care.
Why don't we move on to the Van Antwerp subdivision item?
I'm going to abstain from any comments on this.
Okay, yeah, so. Oh, you're abstaining, Daryl?
Yeah, because I've spoken out.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And Laura, are you able to share on your screen?
Yeah,
this? It's
yes,
so
I am.
helpful when you do that. Thank you, because when the packets come, they don't print out right I can't get them to print on my paper, my full size, you know?
Okay, when you're doing that, next time, maybe if you call me, I might be able to help you through some printer settings that will help you with that, but
Thank
might
you.
also not be able to, but I probably can if you want to give me a call.
Thank you. It always
Yeah.
gets cut off.
Yeah, because if you have to make sure that it's fitting to page rather than trying to print at scale. But I also
Okay.
don't want to mess up your printer.
Acknowledged.
Okay,
I will
so
look at that.
Okay,
this is an old one for anybody who's been on the tree council for a while. This is the one where we went to the property and the trees are very large. There's some black walnuts. There's catalpa maybe. There's a couple and there's some huge sugar maples, I think. And they are cited on the plan, and we have in fact issued a memo. And the 2 points in our memo were, and I can pull up the memo quickly if you want to see it, that we really wanted to make sure that that they did everything they could to cite the houses and driveways to not mess up these trees. And here, I'll pull up the other memo. I'll pull up our old memo. And I don't really think that anything's changed, but the planning board actually denied this sketch plan, and it got brought to court, and the planning board lost. So it is coming back. I don't know that there's any changes, and I'm not sure that you guys want to change your memo in any way, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that it was there and that we do want to double look at it, double check on it, make sure our ribbons are still out there, and anything else I could think of on it. I'll pull up our memo here.
Laura, why did the planning board lose? Can you just summarize that?
yeah,
On an Article 78, really, there's only two standards, that one is process and one is arbitrary and capricious. And the judge felt that the planning board's decision was arbitrary and capricious, and he overturned it and required sketch plan approval. So, okay, so this was our initial memo from March 2019. And it said, most importantly, continue to explore all options and configurations on the subdivision proposal to save as many trees as possible, because the trees on site are so unique and valuable. This is one of the sites where the trees are so big that I think this is one of the sites that triggered us wanting to create a program where people could submit their trees and kind of get recognition for them. And then also whether the carriage house gets moved or where it ends up being can impact where those trees are. So I think we would just want to make sure that, that it's a balance. If they're putting the carriage house where there's, an enormous tree, I don't know, we just want to look at the balance there. And then we want to make sure that, we brought this up before, but any of the trees that are marked to be moved, they have to be protected with the drip line, to the drip line at minimum with orange fencing, and have that written in and enforced, because we've had problems with that in the past. So that's our initial memo. The plan that I had up on here is really, it's showing,
I
yeah,
went
we've
to
been out there.
We went out there. That was a long time ago, though, it feels
Long
like.
time ago.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
well, the memo was from 2019, so.
Yeah. Well, it takes a
Yeah.
long time for these things to go through the courts. So, specifically that, this is where the carriage house was, and they're moving it here. and I'm not sure that when we were out there, we were looking at the carriage house being moved. So we just want to double check that if this is where the carriage house gets moved, that these 2 trees would be okay. At the last planning board meeting, they said maybe they would actually change this driveway and have the whole thing come off over here, which may be great. That may actually
Save the trees.
save more trees. I don't know. So I think that just putting that out here to you guys, that it's back, and these are big trees that we have, tried really hard to make sure that the majority of them are okay. And so when that gets farther along, we will probably, my recommendation is do at least one more site walk based on where the final configuration of homes and driveways lands, and then just make sure that, if we need to flip the house so the driveway's on the other side so that it doesn't impact the trees or whatever, that we're out there and that we're making sure that that's done.
The previous,
Go ahead. Sorry.
this is John Moore. The previous owner of that property lives right across the street. Are they involved? Do they get to have a say if they express their viewpoint about all those trees?
They did express their viewpoint, and they did provide actually quite a bit of comment to the planning board during the initial review, that they felt that the trees were planted as part of the initial homestead to provide, like syrup and shade and flowers and nuts and things like that. So we do have those comments into the record, and I think that's one of the reasons in our memo that the trees are written as unique and valuable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they do remain opposed to the subdivision, but it's really hard when subdivision is a land out of right. So we just doesn't mean that we can't do our best job to protect the trees, and doesn't mean that we can't continue doing what we do.
And
but-
we're clearly identifying the large ones that we want to keep, right, Laura?
Yeah, so we actually made them put them on this plan.
Okay.
That's here.
Yeah.
These are some of the black walnuts. The sugar maples are over here, I think. And there's some silver maples up front that he's got on there.
Am I right or wrong that the fellow who's going to be the clerk of the works of this also put the development that's to the east here? Or to the side, was he the developer for this part?
He built the homes on this side here, yes.
And they have no trees.
And they have no trees.
They have absolutely no trees. I mean, remember how few trees they have? I don't even know they have street trees.
Yeah, and that might be just something that we can bring up. I mean, it goes probably outside of what we can require for subdivision.
I know,
But
but
we
that means
certainly
we have
at
an
some
argument
point
for why
say-
they should keep these trees. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
like if they end up having to take a big tree down, we could say, okay, as mitigation, you've got to plant some street trees farther down. That's a possibility.
Yeah, it was just astonishing to think that they never put any trees in that area, leaving it to the owners basically to do it.
That's a
How
pretty
they get away with no trees, Laura? That 2 per lot has been in place for a while.
Yeah, it's a pretty old subdivision, and the tree council, I think, was just starting to form when the initial subdivision went in.
Mm.
And you can't go backwards.
No,
you
you can't, but
You
we
could, like
Yeah.
you say, mitigate if it comes to the fact that we have to lose a tree or two. Then that is a really good idea for nearby on-site mitigation that would help the whole neighborhood.
yeah. At least in the
Laura, are you going to set up a time to just have people go back out and?
Well, I don't want to do that until they kind of finalize where they want to put the carriage house, because that could seriously change what the impact is to the trees. But I do want you guys to get out there at least once more before any action by the planning board, any final action by the planning board.
Okay.
And are they still going forward with these rain gardens? Is that, do you have any clue on that? Because
Yeah, because we talked about that because the rain gardens require more clearing. That's still, I think they have to in some cases because of the amount of clearing. They have to make sure that they're keeping the stormwater on site. But they might, if they move the carriage house around a little bit more, maybe there's more options for the rain gardens that don't remove trees too.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, some big trees there.
And most of them are staying. But we'll double check and see if we can get some additional street trees around if we can.
They lost a big last spring.
They did a big silver maple, I think, or maybe a sugar.
I don't think it was a maple, but it was near the porch on the side. It was on Van Antwerp, but it was, and I don't know if this is the old thing. It's probably the tree that's adjacent to the porch.
That way?
Not that.
Which
the
one?
one-
Oh, this one.
That's probably, if assuming that's the, because it fell across right in front of the porch.
Huh.
Okay,
To get out there and walk it again. So we
yeah.
can get that done.
Yep.
And
Howdy.
did you want us to look at the letter? I mean,
If something changes and we want to update it, yeah. So this is just to put you guys on notice. We got to look at this one again, and then
Okay.
maybe in between this meeting and the next meeting, or maybe at the next meeting, we'll have a more finalized sketch plan, and then we'll schedule another on-site walkabout.
Okay.
okay, great.
Yeah, it's been so
Okay.
long that we've been there. I think we definitely need to go back.
Okay. Yep.
And moving on to the Rivers Ledge Park, that's a lot of activities happening with that right now, isn't it, Laura? Do you want to?
Yeah, so I didn't put the plans in there because they haven't changed since the last time you guys looked at them. But I did want to let you know that the trees that were identified to come down are coming down. They started them yesterday and they were taking more down today. And I talked to them, we're probably going to do a townwide email blast, just kind of closing that section of the park down while they're out there. But I again discussed with him today to do more site walks. There are some large trees that do remain. We talked about that. Any of the healthy large trees are remaining. They're only allowed to take down the leaning ones, and the ones that are kind of old and bad. Well, I don't think any tree is old or bad, but the ones that, some people do think that. and then they're going to clear out all the underbrush and the understory. And then we sort of not have a carte. Well, we basically have a carte blanche and can go in there and get a whole bunch of things planted after. So it is, I think, very traumatizing to see some of those trees go down. I know people get worried about it, but we are going to put a ton of trees back, and it's not going to be a single invasive species that's in the understory. It's going to be a vast, diverse, beautiful replanting that hopefully grows into an amazing park in the future. So that's just so you know, if you guys notice, there are big, trees coming down over there. So
Mhm.
I'm getting calls.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a design build. So I would just say be on the lookout for emails. I do think they actually want to replant, and to the extent that they can in the spring, to give it to give it some time to get established. And because it's a public park, they don't want to kind of like disturb it and then leave it bare all summer long. And then I think they do want to get at least some plantings in the spring so that people can enjoy the park in the summer if possible.
Laura, I know that this, it was a 2-phase project and this is phase 1. Is that still like the timeline is basically the same?
Yes. The nice thing about it, I guess, in some ways, is that they're doing the public benefit portion of the project up front. So a lot of times the developer will wait to do the public benefit until he's done and gotten all of his infrastructure in. But in this case, he's basically going to build the park first and then build while he's building the apartments, and he's working on approvals for phase 2. And so if for some reason phase 2 doesn't go through, or something happens, the park will actually be done. And so we already get that public benefit. Yeah. So yeah, but I'd say that phase 1 was delayed in part due to COVID and in part due to, this is the same developer who developed on Starbuck Island. I don't know how many of you guys go down to Troy. Starbuck Island was a brown site, and they hit a decent amount of pollution down there, and that slowed Starbuck Island down by about a year. I think,
Oh.
and subsequently slowed their movement over to Niskayuna by about a year. And then COVID hit. So I think that the general schedule is about the same, but it's about 2 years delayed from when they initially thought they were going to be able to be there.
Still the same. Phase 2 is the 50 and over or something, or
Yeah, that's still the plan. The problem with phase 2 is that it requires a individual permit with the Army Corps of Engineers, which is very difficult to get. So they have to get those approvals rolling, and that's why that got separated out. And it may end up being a negotiation with the Army Corps of Engineers. So it may not get as to be allowed to have as much disturbance as they would like. And then when they get that permit is when we can finally hone in on the 50 plus type of frontage on Aqueduct Road and see where, they land with the number of units there. They have proposed 100, but it could go down.
is that right? Phase 1 is 150 and phase 2 is 100, or what?
Yeah. Phase 1 was 160. Each apartment unit is 10 units and there's 16 buildings. And then phase 2 is 150 plus.
Okay. Oh, it's 150 plus,
Yeah.
not 150.
Yeah. So it's 260 total.
Okay.
Both
That's my
phases.
memory, but it has been a while. I couldn't.
And the tree council has only looked at phase 1 and the park. We haven't really touched phase 2 because we don't know what the limits of disturbance are going to be based on the Army Corps of Engineers permit. But if that does come to being, they hardly had to do any clearing for phase 1 because it was a junkyard. And the kind of traumatizing clearing is what's going on now in the parks. But again, we are going to be replanting that and hopefully making it a really good place for diversity and tree species and berries and birds. And so, and then phase 2 is actually a lot more clearing because that's between the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail and Aqueduct Road, and that is forested right now. Phase 1 really wasn't, but we haven't looked at it yet because we don't have plans for it yet.
Is it where regarding the power lines there? Is it on the other side of the power lines, or is it on the same side as the power lines that run? You know what I
So
mean?
It's between those large power lines and Rexford Bridge. It doesn't cross underneath them in any way.
And it's the plan for the bike trail is all set.
They have their crossings are allowed, and the bike path is not allowed to be stopped because it existed prior. So the cars have to stop for the bike path. In and out of Rivers Ledge yields to the bike path.
Is that how it works? If the bike path was established first, then the cars have to stop?
Yeah, but then a lot of times, if a bike path goes over like an existing thing, then it becomes like. The park's like we take precedence. Our bike path takes precedence over your path. Your car's driving over here, so it's a stop sign actually on either side. I don't even think it's a yield. I think they have to stop every time.
The reason why I'm asking is on the other end of Niskayuna, where you have the bike path that comes down from Flower Road down to the bike path. The cars don't stop.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it would be almost impossible to get a full stop on a county road.
Okay, so it depends on what road it is. Aqueduct is a town road.
It's a county road. Yeah.
Aqueduct
is.
Aqueduct.
Yeah. Oh well, no. So the reason that you can make the car stop for the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail is because we're talking about the access roads into Rivers Ledge have to stop.
Okay.
Those private roads, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Aqueduct Road is still going to be a blinking beacon.
The cars still have to stop there on Aqueduct where they don't on Rosendale.
Nope, they actually don't have to stop, but they tend to.
It's a crosswalk.
It's a crosswalk, yeah. So if you're in the crosswalk, they have to stop.
Okay.
But there's a crosswalk on River Road too.
It's the same controlling. It's the law is controlling actually in every single one of those crosswalks, even though they're all different. So Flower Hill has a constantly flashing light that doesn't change, which is, its own issue, which I still want to fix someday. And then the Aqueduct Park has a rapid flashing beacon that senses you. And then the River Road crossing by Blatnick Park doesn't have lights at all. But
Yeah, so they're
they're
all
all
kind of different.
controlling if there's somebody in the crosswalk you're supposed to
The
stop.
best one is the one that's by the River's Ledge there, where the crosswalk, as you approach, the lights come on. If
It
you're-
senses you.
Yeah, and so then most cars stop, obviously, because they see where on Rosendale, no, the poor pedestrians have to keep waiting until there's a gap. So it's
Yeah,
just we're not consistent from.
It would be better to change the Rosendale one to the way that it is on Aqueduct. That's in the plans for the town to do someday, because I think it gets confusing to cars because that thing never stops blinking.
Right,
So it's hard
right.
for them to know, like, okay, well, it's blinking and there's somebody there, and now it's blinking and there's somebody there.
Yeah,
I've
it is
often been on
confusing.
that. I've been on that when a car saw me and started to slow down and stop, and the car behind it did not.
Oh, no. Oh,
So,
God.
I mean, in all those where that kind of is a little bit tricky, but yeah.
There's another
Laura,
similar.
the River's Ledge crossing we're started talking about, is that technically even a town road?
It is a public road. Here, I'll pull it up. From Aqueduct to the bike path, because the Office of Parks and Historic Preservation would not grant an easement to a private corporation, but the town entered a maintenance agreement in perpetuity with the developer. So it's technically public, but the developer is responsible for maintaining.
Okay. So I didn't know if it was just an internal access road or it is a public road.
Yeah, I mean, it's public to the extent that it crosses
Not
the bike
public.
path, but it really is an
Right.
internal. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. Well,
Okay. Any more on River's Ledge?
nope, stay tuned. That might be emails for you. So
Okay.
And Laura, do you plan another site visit there that you could schedule for us? Since you're being such a tour guide and scheduling all these site visits.
yeah, I mean, yes, I was speaking with the project manager on it this morning. Their plans are to get the trees down. So they're going to pull all the aqueduct stones out and dust them off and kind of sort them by sizes and shapes and things like that, and stage them so that they can be used for the various treatments that we, observed would be put in the park. And then they're going to bring in fill so that they can even out the areas. And then based on the number of stones they have in the treatments, that's when they would start developing where the planting beds would go and what we would plant. And that's probably once it's been leveled out and the stones have been pulled, is probably a really good time to schedule a site walk so that you can visualize what could be planted and what the planting spaces look like.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Laura.
Yep. And we do have a landscape architect that is employed by the town on that, which we can work with and give him all our ideas as well.
Oh, good.
And we can bring him along when we go out there.
Okay.
And he happens to be the same person who's working on our tree master plan.
Oh, okay. Okay. So moving on to the Dean Street neighborhood planting. I got an email from the director of the Schenectady Conservation Group, and they have some money from National Grid, the 10,000 Trees program, and they reached out to us about working with us to plant trees on Dean Street, particularly on the north end where there aren't a lot of trees. So I actually called him today just to find out kind of the specifics. And he said, we can pick out the trees and we can spend up to $150 per tree, and 30 to 40 trees is what we can buy. And then it has to be spent this year. He's looking at a fall planting. And since they are working with the grant and the National Grid, they will get reimbursed. So they'll buy the trees, they'll get reimbursed, and we don't have to worry about that. And if a tree dies, National Grid will come out and take a look at it and see what they have to do. So I think that's great that we have 30 to 40 trees that we can plant on Dean Street that they've offered up for us. So.
Carol, are they allowing us to tag the trees ourselves? Or just do they want just a list of the tree types and then they're going to physically go to a nursery and buy them?
I have to check, but he didn't even know where to buy them. So I'm thinking if we can tell him what we want and tell him, that we'll tag them at Northern, as long as we keep it under $150 per tree and under, I'm assuming it's $6,000, $40, $150, 40 trees, $150 a tree, then we should be good. But I think we do have to work with the neighborhood to kind of let them know, the Dean Street community, that we're planning on doing this, and like we did with Ray and Cornelius.
Yeah. We don't want
and
to
also
we don't want people rejecting them.
Right.
That's right. And as I've always stated, I really think it needs to be do it with, not do it to. Dean Street people have complained for a long time about the traffic speeds through there. And I think this is one of a good mitigation, not the only step, but a step toward helping them. It would be nice if we could tag the trees. 150 per tree is not a lot. That's going to be a smaller tree. So we also want to be aware of that. But that may end up being a good thing because maybe it could be a community. Carol, did they say they're physically planting them, or could this be an opportunity for a community planting like on Ray and Cornelius, where we have a physically smaller tree that we as volunteers can physically handle and plant ourselves?
Yeah, I think they wanted to work with us on that. And Laura, you had mentioned that would our highway department be involved, or would Schenectady's?
Well, yeah. So sorry, I was just kind of showing the area of Dean Street that like Amy was speaking to has the greatest need for street trees, not only for, the things that you kind of brought up this morning, Amy, or sorry, earlier in the meeting about cooling costs and and
tree equity.
Yeah, definitely. There's an area of Dean Street that is so different from all other Dean Street because it has no trees. But to Andrea's point, we'd be like, oh, you guys definitely need trees. And if they don't want them, that's a problem. So, but,
Isn't Dean Street a county road?
Dean Street's a county road. So I'm not,
So our highway department won't be doing it.
Yeah, so it'd have to be, so I think that the 150 works good because it's smaller plants.
Do you think we could go and make like a little flyer or something to say this is happening? We want a tree. Here's some of the trees we could offer. Give us back, send this to blah blah blah. And
so very similar to what we did for Ray and Cornelius is we can send out a blanket letter, and then we can kind of try and talk to people about what trees they want. And I think we have a longer amount of time than we have for Ray and Cornelius. I think we did do that kind of blanket letter, but we maybe really just did a couple times of being out there. Like if this is a bigger project, although I think that's about the same size. I think we ended up planting like 30 trees.
Yeah, it was a good amount.
Nice. Yeah. But anyway, is that some people we still hadn't communicated with, so that by the day that we were planting, they still came out and said, like that tree. But I think most people came out and were generally speaking fine. So
ahead of time, Melissa and I went over there a couple times to pre-site. Now I'm acknowledging that it won't be our highway department that we would be coordinating with, but if we could work that same way where we go there even before we send out the blanket letter, because there's going to be some obvious places where we can't put a tree, fire hydrant, old stump, utilities, that sort of thing. Even if the person wants it, it might not physically be able to be there. It would be helpful if we could coordinate with Ray Smith's equivalent at the county level so that we could have them kind of help us figure out where they would suggest not to put a plant. We would also have to 811, right? All those areas to have the utilities come out and be marked. And it would be helpful to do this kind of start this process now ahead of time, because what Melissa and I were able to do was pre-think about what trees might work. Remember on Ray and Cornelius, there was an area that was really, really thin, really tight, right? So we were able to say, hey, we need a columnar, really tight fastigiate tree here, and we were able to find them. So if we can get the flavor of the area and think about what sort of trees might work as a progression along that whole corridor, we could put together a packet like we did with, hey, here's some suggested trees, what we think would work. What do you like for in front of your specific house?
Yeah, and we also need to map out where the overhead utilities are in the same way that we did before. So we know
Correct.
where we can put the big ones and the little ones.
Exactly. Because of the grant, we have to use the list that National Grid has for under utility lines.
We were restricted to that on the Ray and Cornelius as well.
It's basically the same project. Which
Exactly.
I think Ray and
But-
Cornelius is an amazingly good outcome,
But I think we have to do this fairly quickly because it is a short time frame to be all ready by fall to do the
Yeah.
printing. Otherwise, we're going to miss this opportunity since we can't push it on to next year. So Amy, I'm kind of looking at you with the tree planting chairperson to maybe take the lead on looking at the Dean Street, and I
Sure.
can give you the contact information with Nick, who's the director of the Schenectady Conservation Group.
Great. Sure, Carol. Is there anybody here that would want to do a site visit with me to brainstorm what trees would work? Andrea, thank you. Daryl, thank you.
I would
I'll
do
go
it.
to yeah,
Is this somewhere we're gonna want to talk to the neighbors?
yeah, definitely.
As
So what we did
The
first
good old
was
days,
we
that's what we
made
did.
one site where we made one trip where we analyzed. We didn't talk to anybody yet. We wanted to get a feel for the place and understand the limitations, and that so we could speak intelligently about them and have kind of a brainstorm vision of what possibly could be. And once we had that information, that's when we kind of put together the letter and started to talk to the residents. We wanted to be well informed before we had the conversation with them.
Makes sense.
good idea.
Yeah, but I definitely think that
This sounds like a good project.
yeah, it's so
Sorry, Laura.
needed. That's what
Cut you
I had up on my screen. It's like if you look at Lower Dean, it's so tree lined, and when you get to this section of Upper Dean, it's so not tree lined, and so it really needs it. I really think it'll help. And so reaching out to the people and just seeing who is willing to support trees and is willing to water them and love them would be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think this was brought up by a legislator who had read an article, if it was in the Gazette, about people speeding on Dean Street and that it wasn't tree lined. And so I think she was one who suggested when they were looking for places to plant trees to reach out to us. So great.
Good.
Okay, so with that, why don't we move on to the reports? I can give a summary on the public outreach subcommittee. So Arbor Day, we are going to have Arbor Day. It's going to be Saturday, April 24th. We're going to have it at the Senior Community Center.
And Carol, what time does it start?
Well, we haven't really decided that. I'm thinking
Okay.
around 10 o'clock, but we'll need as many people from the council as possible to help hand out trees on that day. So typically what we do is we've ordered 350 trees around that, 320 trees that we'll hand out. We're also going to hand out, John is working on the benefits of trees, a little pamphlet on why trees are beneficial that we'll put in a kit. We're going to put in some coloring pages for kids. We also are going to have a tree identification scavenger hunt for the that we'll put in the kit for the families. And because of last year, because we had such popularity that we had a traffic issue. That's why we decided to have it at the community center, because there's a much more longer access road. And Laura said it was brought up at the highway department, and the community center was there, and they're both excited about it. And that day is free. They've marked it on their calendar already. So, and so they also were very interested in us planting the tree, the annual Arbor Day tree at the community center. So we'll have to pick out a tree and have it ready to go. And again, you know, the public outreach committee and Amy, we'll need to figure out a tree and get one bought and delivered by the 22nd. I'm sorry, by the 24th.
Yeah, Carol, and I just have 2 updates to that. I did check with the police to see if they were okay with that location, because they were the ones that were kind of, well, I mean, but they were the ones that were like,
Yeah.
So they were very happy with that location. They think it'll work really good, and I can coordinate with them as well. So
Good.
highway and police are both okay with it being at the senior center. And I don't know if she can get it, but I reached out to Penny at Northern, and she's going to try and get a sassafras for us.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
Okay.
And do we have a chance that we can go over and pick out a site for that? Hopefully.
yeah, we can do that anytime, really. Yep. I read
Great.
that sassafrasses are pretty unfussy, but not salt tolerant. So
They can take a little bit of wet. So
yeah,
so maybe you and I and whomever else wants to go, we can go put the stake in the ground for where we want it to be dug. Will the highway department come and dig the hole? Thank you.
They
Yeah.
always dig the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we were thinking is they could plant it ahead of time, and if we can put it kind of en route to where their people are picking up their Arbor Day tree, we could put a little bow on it or something and be like, "Here's our new sassafras."
And just to let people know, the way we're going to do the traffic flow this year is they'll come in on Banker, pick up their trees, and maybe we can divide them once they come so that we have half the, into 2 lines to maybe speed up the process, and then they'll go down the hill and exit onto Aqueduct, which I think will help the flow also from what we learned from last year. So that's the plan right now. And Amy, I think I sent you an email. You had at one time talked about these seeds. Remember when we did have the Arbor Day and you had the Kentucky coffee tree, and you said there was another one that we could do. I was wondering if that was something we could put in the kit with instructions.
Sure. I will go and look and see how many I have. The ones that I was thinking about were from catalpas. So the big heart-leafed leaves, big tree, long hanging down string beans, that tree. Inside the beans, when the pods dry and you split them open, it looks like little puffs of dandelion, they have little fuzzes on them. They're really cool looking. Long, thin, little fuzzy seeds. They don't really look like seeds. So that might be fun. It's such a different seed than the Kentucky coffee tree, which was this big, hard nugget that we literally had to file in order to crack the seed coat to let the moisture in. So a completely different feel, look, size, different tree. It might be fun that each year we offer a different seed, and then so you can start to build these kind of fun collections.
Now we've ordered 320 trees, so I think that's how many kits we were going to try to put together.
I may have to go get more seeds. Oh, look, Carol.
Okay.
Or Carol, what we could do is maybe we could keep those seeds to the side, and when people were picking up, we could say, "Are you also interested in a catalpa seed?" And then maybe wouldn't need as many, and that way we're not giving seeds to people who wouldn't really plant them.
We wouldn't plant them, right? Yeah.
You know what we had done before, Laura, you were kind enough to bring some potting mix and some little 4-inch and 6-inch pots. Is there the opportunity to do that again? Are the people are not physically getting out of their car at all, right?
No.
Is it possible to have that we scoop up a little bit of the soil ahead of time in a little 4 or 6-inch pot, and we put this seed, but it's so neat for them to see the seed. Well, we could put the seed in a little baggie and stick it with the pot and hand them through the window. Here's your 4-inch pot filled with soil, and here's a little seed that goes with it, and then the kids can just stick it in there with their finger. Would that be possible? Like, Laura, do you have another
Yeah,
bag of
yeah,
soil?
So like, I mean, I think I definitely probably can export at least 40 to 50 of those. Like if you have 40, 50 seeds, I probably have 40 to 50 pots that I could have soil in. And then we could just say when people are picking up, are you interested in a catalpa seed kit?
Okay.
And if people wanted them, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't think we could do 320 of them.
Amy,
I don't know if
do you gather these seeds in the spring now, or how does that work?
No. In the late fall, after leaves have
Late fall.
fallen and everything's kind of dried up, and then the pods fall. So right before winter
Yeah.
is usually when I collect.
All right.
But I'll count.
I have-
I mean, there's a
I have
lot
catalpa.
in each pod.
No, I have catalpa too, and I just
Oh,
didn't
okay.
know if I could grab
Yeah.
them. Too late.
Okay.
Well, let's think about it. We do have the other kit, but it was something that, it was nice that we did the Kentucky coffee bean. I think people really liked that 2 years ago when we were trying to
Yeah.
think of another one to do. So, okay. And the other thing is we're trying to get the website up and running. We're having a few issues with that before Arbor Day because we want to have it updated and ready to go again. So we can hand out the magnets, which we finally have. So I have sent another email to Steve. John tried, and we can update, but it won't upload once we make a change to the website. So there's still something wrong. So we've reached out to Steve again to see if he can help us. So.
Oh yeah, and per Linda's comment, I think I spelled your name as usual wrong, Jonathan. I'm really sorry about that, but I will fix it. I updated the town's version of the Tree Council's website to have our new members and our youth representatives down there, and I was able to upload a year's worth of minutes to our website. So you were the
Okay.
first one that I was able to do that on, but we now have a year's worth of fully approved minutes. All of our old packets, our updated members, and so because the two pages are kind of linked together. So like when you go to the Tree Council or Niskuna treecouncil.org and you click on minutes, I think it actually brings you back to the town website to where our packets, our minutes are or whatever.
Do you know
So
if it's that?
I was trying to make sure that the town one is in good shape. So the town one is in better shape. I'm going to fix Jonathan's name.
Do you know if it links for the members? Because I have tried several times to update the members on our website, and that's when I run into the problem is that I've updated the list, but then it won't publish. So I've tried to add Cheryl and Faith and Amy to our list of members, but I haven't been successful yet.
Yeah, maybe when you get a hold of Steve, we can double check. But I have noticed if you click around between our Niskuna treecouncil.org website and the town website, they definitely do link back and forth to each other.
Okay.
That actually could have been the problem, Carol, because I was trying to edit the members list.
Me
So
too.
we're now working on a town page rather than our own page.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe I'll try again, just go and see if I can change something right on the top page to see if I can make a change there.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll go in sometime too, because there's other stuff we can update. But I was trying to do the members first, and that's where I got stuck.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Carol,
Yep.
I have a point of clarification. Can we go back just for 1 second?
Sure.
When you were saying that there's $150 per tree for Dean Street, is that strict or is it in general? So what I mean is, can we pay $90 for one tree and $170 for another type so that the total still matches?
I don't know.
So we did that program and it did not seem particularly strict to me. But
so like if the total bill equals 10 per 150 per tree average, would that be okay?
Let me find out, because it, since he's paying for, they're paying for it. I just want to make sure that we, that they don't have an issue with us coming. If they would just give us a number and it doesn't matter how we spend that number, that would be one thing.
Yeah, because I like that they're doing the work, but the way this grant works is we come up with the planting plan, submit it to National Grid, then they approve it, and then we plant it. Then they just verify that we planted it, and I was reimbursed based on our planting plan. Did not need receipts of trees, because to them, I don't think it really matters if you've got good, healthy looking live trees. They're probably going to be about $150 anyway. It's like a rebate. So that was my experience with it. But
Thank you.
that I think that also speaks to Carol's point. Just jogged my memory when you asked that. And they'll need it too if they're doing this program, is we do have to come up with that initial planting plan that they approve.
And how long did that take, Laura? Because again, I just want to make sure
It wasn't too long, but I do think that they appreciated, because Amy and Melissa had worked on that a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think it went to them a couple months before we planted, even though when we got out to the letters and it actually got to planting, that was a bit rushed. I think the actual planting plan we had for a while and had submitted to National Grid and come back and they said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. The next is the tree inventory, tree master plan subcommittee. Chris and I did meet on the tree master plan just since I joined the committee to get up to speed a little bit. And I spoke to Laura, so I'm going to work on the goals and the vision a little bit, editing, and he's going to work on some of the other information from the case studies and the information he has from Steve from the Fulcrum data. And Andrea, I know that you're also on the subcommittee, so I was going to meet with you and figure out, there was another area that's slipping my mind that maybe you could help with, and also review the vision and the goals. So.
Great. And pick up time to meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was basically our goal, Chris and my goal, was to have that done by the end of April, the draft, so that people could see it. Okay. Next is the tree planting subcommittee, which is Amy. And Amy and Daryl, the other Amy and Daryl and Faith, as you hear about these subcommittees, if there's any others that pique your interest and you want to join, just let us know. So.
Okay, so on tree planting subcommittee, for our new members, what we've done in the past is had a neighborhood planting day on Ray and Cornelia Street, which is off the top of Union, and planted several, something like 30 or 40 trees there. We also have in the past selected the trees and the sites for some special trees that we planted around the town hall. And Laura, one of my questions is, do we have money in this COVID budget this year to do any of that sort of thing? That's a definite head shake on your part. Oh, darn. Okay.
Not right now. We may end up having more later, but I don't think we're going to be able to get the spring plantings like we had last year.
Okay. Thank you for your info. And then also, I believe
I'm not there to help out.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, Paul, say again.
I said, sorry, I'm not there to help out. I leave, the money goes.
Oh, that's true, Paul. So we also have worked in the process of thinking about how to improve the sign at Jeff Blatnick Park. So I think those are our main things right now. Specialty plantings, which we can't do this year, one neighborhood project a year, and then also getting the Jeff Blatnick entrance sign improved. If anybody would like to be on that subcommittee, let us know. I think our current tasks then would be to organize a day to go on Dean Street to get a flavor, as we talked about, get a feel for the site and maybe think about what trees could go possibly where. And then also to meet with Laura to site where the Arbor Day tree would be at the community center. So we need to have two walkabouts for those, which I can schedule and send out an email to everybody, and anyone can come. You don't have to be on the subcommittee for that. Also, I've been working on updating our, make sure I'm saying this right, tree and plant master list. Last time I presented some info to you, you had suggestions, and I've updated based on your suggestions. So I will have an attempt now at sharing my screen, and please forgive me if it doesn't work. So Laura, I think you go to the present now, and then you go to your entire screen. Okay, and then I'm gonna
Muted,
go.
Laura.
Laura, you're muted.
Whoops, sorry, I'm just happily talking to you.
Okay,
Yes.
can you see this now? Niskayuna Tree Site Planning Checklist.
No.
So
No.
Amy, make sure that when you hit your share your entire screen that you select the screen
yeah.
that you're sharing and then hit the share button. It's like
Okay.
5 clicks. I don't know why it has to be so complicated.
Choose what you'd like to share.
Yeah, on that choose what you like to share. Even if you only have one screen, make sure you select it and then hit share.
Thank you, Laura.
There
And
goes.
then we go to this. Okay. Does that work?
Yep, we're looking at a checklist.
Great. So I presented this at the last meeting. We had this idea to create a physical checklist that we could hand to developers and similar people to say, hey, here's everything that we as the town need to see when you submit the maps and the plans that we've been looking at today. There always seems to be something missing, and we can't fully blame them if we haven't suggested what they put on there. So they can have this checklist and go right down it and say, yep, I've done that. Yep, I've done that. I presented this last time. You made some suggestions. I've changed those items. Can you please read through this and let me know if there's anything else you see?
This is
Me.
great. Neat, thank you.
In looking at it, the only comment I had was, and I understand our goal for diversity, but the 20% seems a little overly stringent or restrictive, and in that it doesn't allow for any type of theme or kind of a consistency almost whatsoever. So I don't know how others feel, but I think it's going to create, restrict significantly. But that's just me.
Thank you, Paul.
I understand what you're saying, Paul, but we're also worried that, everybody goes for, oh, I love red maples. Let's make it all red maples, or I love whatever.
No, I hear you, but you're saying all, and this is a fifth. So is there anything in between all and a fifth?
Mm-hmm.
So our current code has a requirement that there be 3 different kinds, and this would be going essentially to 5 different kinds, right? So right?
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
5 different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
For a second, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
It's not 5 different kinds. You can't, if you're going to plant 10 trees, you can have, I guess it's 5 different kinds, but you're not going to have enough of one to even make a statement in many cases, if that's your goal.
Laura, would we have to change the code because we're putting in 20% versus 30%?
No, I think maybe in the future we do need to update the code in some places, but if we give this as guidelines, I think it's okay. If it's more strict than the code, I think it's okay as guidelines. And then if they really push back, then I might have to fall back on the code, which is 3 different kinds.
Shall I slightly change the word, Paul? Instead of like no plant type may be used for more than 20%, we could say our guidelines suggest. Would that help?
Yeah, I guess it sounds like more than guidelines. It's very firm and, it's very decisive. No plant type may be, this is should, or, a little softer language maybe, or we encourage.
Yes, I will make that change then.
What if you said 30% instead of 20, which would be more in line with the code, but also, the code, technically, if you're planting 10 trees, you could plant 7 of one or 8 of one and 2 of another and have 3 kinds. You're still muted, Laura.
Oh, I was just saying that's why I really like the percentage, because that is true. And I'm not even kidding. Like, we've had that problem before. So it's good to have the percentages.
That is allow for more wiggle room, Paul?
I didn't catch that.
Do you think 30% would be more reasonable than the 20%?
I think that, yeah, I'd like that better myself.
Okay. I will make that change.
Basically, we don't want monocultures. That's
Right.
all.
Right.
Well, I hear that, but that'd be 100%, you know, and it isn't even a monoculture in the town. This is a small pocket park per se, you know, it's.
Uh-huh.
Amy, I had one comment on
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
on that same point that right after it, it says indicate how the project has met the tree and plant diversity requirement. All the others are just checks. What are you expecting them to do there? You know,
Okay, okay, very good point. I could erase that line. What my thought process was that sometimes when they're putting things together, they might, for example, think, well, I spec'd 5 red maples and the cultivar Red Point, and then I spec'd 5 red maples, the cultivar Frank's Red, and then I spec'd 5 maples, red maples, the cultivar Red Sunshine. And in their head, they've used 3 different types, but really it's all still the same genus and species. And so I was hoping by including a little bit more in there that they would have to write a statement somewhere saying, see, we've used 3 different species, 5 different cultivars, but perhaps that's not necessary. Maybe it's just us looking at it at the, the planning board looking at it and us looking at it and counting up and saying, you don't meet this checklist.
yeah, I guess I was just, the way it's written right now, it looks like they can just check. And
Okay.
yet that sentence wants them to do more. So either like leave a spot where they have to identify or somehow guide them better than just check. Otherwise, they're just going to check it and you're not going to get the answer you're looking, the information you're looking for.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to make those changes. Does anybody see anything else? And also please realize this, of course, goes on town paperwork and Linda's going to format it that, this is don't count the placement of items.
So in terms of, may I ask in terms of like when the part of the town right-of-ways, they'll be able to get that information readily, I assume, in terms of the town right-of-ways for their work, as opposed to them having to guess what the town right-of-ways are in the places that they're working. Is that something that's readily available to contractors and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this is the list that we would be sending to developers for subdivisions and site plan approvals.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they all have to have engineered, surveyed requirements. In some cases, they're the ones creating the right of ways. So
Okay.
it's not like we won't run into the issue that we have with homeowners where they're like, "What's a right of way? I
Yeah.
mow that. What are you talking about?" That won't happen here.
Right.
So I can make these changes and then again next month present it kind of for the final look. Would that work for everyone?
Doing this, I think it's not very long. It's something they'll actually people will read.
We hope. We hope.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I've got one more item to show. Let me go to here. All right. So last time I showed you, do you see a page with 3 lines on it? Niskayuna recommended tree and plant list.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So last time I showed you 3 different options for the way to format the information I've been working on. And we all together came that this would be the formatting. So I'm able to fit 3 rows. The pictures going across are all of the same sort of tree. So if we look at that middle one, Acer Grecium, first is the full tree green, then I show a leaf, then I show some fall leaf color. And this particular species is known for having exfoliating bark. So I want to highlight that. And I showed the picture of the bark. And then underneath, it's going to be the same category for each tree as we go across. It's the scientific name, common name, height and width, what kind of conditions it takes, full sun to part shade, what the flowers are like, what the leaf colors like. Does it, yes or no, attract pollinators? Is it yes or no deer resistant? And then are there any debris issues like the samaras, the seed pods, the helicopters that fly off of maples? Maybe somebody doesn't want that in their yard. Then we added the category of is it native or not? And then lastly are some little notes for people in helping them to choose, hey, maybe I want a shade tree. The Acer griseum in particular, I like that peeling bark. Maybe that's attractive to me, and it tolerates clay soil. So that's the format we decided on last time. I've been adding to this packet that we talked about. And we also talked about one other issue is if we look down at the last row, Acer rubrum, which means red maple, I had said there's, hundreds of different cultivars that they could buy. And in our current list, it was strange in that it would list 1 or 2 or 3 cultivars would be okay, but it didn't list these other possibilities of the hundreds that would be okay. So it would appear that if a person was looking at our current list, if a cultivar is not on there, then maybe I can't buy it. And we don't want to give that idea. So, and yet at the same time, I can't take 100 pages and do one of these bars every single time there's a new cultivar. So if we look at this bottom row, Acer rubrum, Acer means maple, rubrum means red, and then you see the word Armstrong. Notice that Armstrong has single quotation marks and is a capital letter, and that's a cultivar. So there's a lot of different cultivars of maples. Now I've come up with 2 ways to solve our problem. So I'd like to present those to you, and then you help me figure out which way will work best. And I will attempt to do which way you pick up until the point of, in case I run into any other issues, which I will let you know about. So the first way is, this is a service berry. And notice that I just used the genus name Amelanchier in the first column. Amelanchier. So we're talking in general about this genus, serviceberry, and we talk in general about its attributes and how big it is, and in general the pictures of what it looks like. Then underneath, I say acceptable cultivars include, and I list all of the ones that they might possibly see locally in the trade. There are some height differences among these different cultivars. There may be flower color among different cultivars, or maybe fall leaf color changes. So I could note those in a list below. We don't necessarily have to have a picture of every single one. In this case, service berries, they're all going to have white flowers. They're all going to have those purple, blue, black berries. They all roughly have orangish fall leaf color. The difference mostly is in the mature size. So this is one way that we can format, or I can, that second way is, we're back to our example of the red maples. So I would have a page with our general bar going across the top. Here's a red maple. Here's what it generally looks like. The seed pods, this is sort of what the flowers look like, and the general look of the tree in green and in fall leaf color. And below that, I could then specify more some of the different cultivars that they may see. In this case, I think it might be important to see the picture, because notice that the different cultivars have very different shapes, right? The first one, October Glory, and the last one, Frank's Red, also called Red Sunset. Notice how broad they are compared to the middle 2. So the second one in is called Red Point, and that's very obviously named because of its red point at the top. The third one in is Armstrong, and notice how columnar or very tight and narrow that is. That would be a really cool street tree for tight spots, right? So if a person's going to the nursery to pick out, there could be some significant differences in a cultivar. Maybe we wouldn't want Red Sunset as a street tree, but it would be okay in a boulevard like Livingston and what's the other, Grand Boulevard, with the big green centers, it would work fine there, and it would be great in a park. Maybe if we were having a street tree, maybe we would want Armstrong because it's narrower, but at least this way it would show the significant differences if there are any. So I'd like to hear your comments. We could do option 1, presenting like this, or we could do option 2, presenting like this, or our third option is that you leave it up to my discretion. If in the case of red maples, there's a lot of differences that are significant and we may want to see a picture, I use this format. And if there's not really so much difference and we want to save some space, I use the format option number 1.
I vote for number 3.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I vote for number 3 because it seems wasteful to make pictures that they're not necessary. But it seems it would be shameful not to have the pictures if it really is necessary. So it seems using your judgment when it's needed and when it's not. Is what I think.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree with that too.
Basis.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing.
Well done.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be very useful when it's,
Yeah, very useful.
Yeah, it's
Can't
taking a while, but I think in the long run, it'll be worth it.
do you have a time frame on that at all, Amy? I know that's a ton of work.
Oh, man. Well, I've done most of the work, which is the gathering of the info. And now I'm doing the cutting. I have that in another document, just page after page after page of all the pictures and all the bar information. And now I'm trying to cut and paste into what we prefer for the tree council. So a lot of the work has already been done.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if we could let people know at Arbor Day that this is going to exist or will exist, and that they can find it on our website or wherever we're going to eventually put it, because it'll be a very handy reference, and it's for people in the town to use in addition to us. Yeah.
Right. So it's for tree council, highway department, when they go to pick out trees. And also it's available to the public and for developers. So a developer could show it to a homeowner and say, hey, the town's making us put some trees in. Would you like a choice? Here's some that we could choose from. And the homeowners could then go on the website, hopefully, theoretically, that's the plan, and say, I want something for my backyard. Let's see what might work. So I think it could be used by everybody.
Maybe we can get it to the Niskayuna Today thing, whatever that local thing is.
I'm sorry.
When it's done, we could get an article in the paper about it, I bet. That's a great story. That's really good.
Okay, cool.
You work so hard for this committee. It's really awesome.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Wonderful.
I think that would be fun. Yeah.
Oh, and that's also the other thing, Laura, we'll have to talk about if there's any publicity we should do for Arbor Day, like in Niskayuna Today or whatever. We should try to publicize it.
Yes. Yep. We should definitely get an email blast and an article if we can, just so people know, with the list of trees too, because I think that's exciting. And like Carol, I don't know if you mentioned, like, the smaller trees seem to be very popular last year. So we have like a lot of red buds and serviceberries and lilacs. People were really sad when we didn't have the lilacs last year, which didn't come in because of COVID. So we got like extra ones this year.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Those would be wonderful.
And I have also one more thing for our report. I think we mentioned this before, and I'd like to work on it over the next couple of years. Can we put out a notice that we're looking for the nice big special trees in town? And and we were going to compile, these are our fun trees. And I was talking to an arborist and colleague of mine, and he just loved this idea. And he's like, I don't even live in your town, and I want to work on this. And so he suggested that we tag it GPS like you guys were doing when, who was doing it? Was that Steve or Chris was putting information into the
Fulcrum?
We still have that. We can still do that. We have our Fulcrum.
That we can do that. And then also that we could set up a QR code for it, so that when you look at the list, if you want to go find the tree and you're standing in front of the tree, you can access that on your phone, and it comes up with all the attributes about that tree. or that type of tree.
Yeah, and I think we should do, and this would be the public outreach, some sort of contest, to see who's got the biggest oak and identify the big oaks or the big maples in town and give them recognition and credit for having those trees and somehow publicizing it. Because I think that would help them want to maintain and keep these big old trees.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've kind of have on our public outreach to-do list, but we haven't gotten there yet. So,
And that could be another newspaper article.
mhm.
To participate.
And I know the Landis Arboretum did that big oak hunt where they had people send in if they had big oak trees. So we could do something like that for the town of Niskayuna with certain types of trees. So.
That's right. And that's the director, Fred Breglia, is, as we talked about previously, he's an old growth expert. And he also goes out quite often searching for state champions, the largest tree of its species, and has registered a lot of them. So that might be fun if there's something in our town that's, the state's biggest oak or the state's biggest catalpa would be a fun, cool thing.
Mhm.
What came to mind was, I hope we can outrun the developers.
Tag them as the biggest trees before they can cut them down.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything for tonight. Thanks everyone for calling in. Does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, we'll adjourn for the evening.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Faith, I know you haven't probably been to other of our Arbor Days, but if you have any thoughts about anything that would be a good way to interact with students at Arbor Day or anything, I know this is the first you're hearing of it, but maybe just kind of like take it in and chat about it with, some of your friends. And, if you can think of anything that would be cool or you guys think about wanting to see on an Arbor Day, just let us know, because, sometimes we don't know that perspective, and that would be really valuable to us.
You gotta remember, everyone loves free trees,
Yeah, sounds good.
That's great. Yeah, I second what Laura said. Faith, if you have any ideas, let us know. So, and if you want to help us with Arbor Day, we're more than willing to have help. Yeah, it is a fun activity. So, okay, with that, I guess, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn for the evening?
I can make a motion.
Amy did, and looks like Andrea second. So we'll adjourn for the evening. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, we'll meet again April 15th. That'll be our last meeting before Arbor Day. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Good night.